Boys aren't allowed in here.
What happened to your hand?
I got hit in the mirror.
Really? How did that happen?
I lost my temper myself.
Moonrise Kingdom would prove to be a pivotal turning point in the cultural enthusiasm surrounding filmmaker Wes Anderson. The story of childhood love and fantasy adventure, filled with whimsical imagery, quirky characters, and visual stylization, was so quintessentially Anderson that it almost became a parody of itself. But before we get too deep into today's episode, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to Nerdstalgic for more videos just like this. Wes Anderson is one of those filmmakers that occupies a distinct and wholly unique position in the modern cinematic landscape. He's a writer and director that, aside from his Roald Dahl adaptations, makes completely original films. He works with star-studded casts and creates unique worlds that transport audiences from around the globe into his hyper-specific and tangibly unique storytelling sensibility. Anderson has made 11 theatrical films. While these movies don't exist in an interconnected universe the way many contemporary moviegoers might want, they share a common thematic fabric. Parental abandonment, sibling conflict, and quirky character-based comedic dialogue.
How fast were you just going?
Safety test, sir.
Come again?
The vehicle appears to be in good working order. I'm just checking if...
Reckless cycling. Second warning. Next time I take away the keys.
Are a staple of his films. However, he also has visual tropes that pop up in just about all his films too. Wide-angle lenses, limited palettes, symmetrical compositions, and an emphasis on intricately executed, often stylized to the point of artificially production design. He's also obsessed with scenes set to obscure pop songs and distinctive use of slow motion. Over the course of his first 3 films, these tropes began to solidify themselves, starting with 1996's Bottle Rocket, a Texas-based screwball heist film which received positive critical reviews but was a box office disappointment, and then moving through 1998's Rushmore and 2001's The Royal Tenenbaums. Anderson solidified himself as a director firmly on the rise. This momentum was sealed when Tenenbaums was granted a Best Original Screenplay nomination for Anderson and his co-writer Owen Wilson.
The original idea was just to do a movie that was about a family of geniuses. As it evolved, it became kind of more about family than about geniuses, but that was the original idea.
Tenenbaums was unique within the filmic landscape of 2001, drawing upon influences like Orson Welles' The Magnificent Ambersons and J.D. Salinger's Franny and Zooey. It was fresh, unique, and completely unlike the glossy, hyper-commercial fare of the burgeoning comic book genre, fantasy epics, and other big-budget studio films being produced at the time. Tenenbaums felt like a handmade piece of art coming from someone who had a refined aesthetic in mind. Take, for example, the scene where Luke Wilson's Richie prepares to end his own life set to Elliott Smith's Needle in the Hay, or the way the film prominently features Alec Baldwin's voiceover as a disembodied narrator.
Royal had lived in the Lindbergh Palace Hotel for 22 years.
Or even just the fact that he's visually creating callbacks to the influences at the core of the piece by including chapter titles and snippets of the novel that the movie is a visualization of. All of these choices make the film feel completely unique. Anderson had the attention of the world, and film fans were waiting with bated breath to see what he would do next. The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou, a deeply emotional film inspired by the life career of deep-sea explorer Jacques Cousteau in 2004.
Son of a I'm sick of these dolphins.
And The Darjeeling Limited, a story of grief and soul-searching following 3 brothers who ride a train across India in an attempt to reunite with their mother. While Life Aquatic underperformed slightly at the box office, Darjeeling Limited pulled in $35 million, roughly twice its modest production cost. 2009 would see the stop-motion classic Fantastic Mr. Fox released to rave reviews but only make $46 million at the box office, off a budget of $40. And it would be here that Anderson, after the stumble of Fantastic Mr. Fox, would take the gamble that would give him his biggest box office success to date, Moonrise Kingdom. The film, co-written by Roman Coppola, follows a 12-year-old orphan boy, Sam, who falls in love with a young girl named Susie and plans to run away with her. The ensuing whimsical fairy tale captured the hearts and minds of viewers young and old alike and pulled in almost $70 million. And yet, this is the film where I fell out of love with Wes Anderson. Here's where we diverge from our usual format a bit. We rarely speak to you in the first person. We almost always present these video essays as close to fact as possible, and any opinions we do have are interlaced with supporting evidence. But this is a Wes Anderson video, so consider this as a straight-to-camera or a disembodied narrator segment.
Interesting.
Moonrise Kingdom should have been one of my favorites of Anderson's pictures. From the boy adventurer visuals, to the burgeoning romance, to the hyper-stylized fantasy aesthetic. I should have loved it, but I really didn't. I was obsessed with Anderson up until this movie, specifically the trilogy of Tenenbaums, Life Aquatic, and Darjeeling. They felt like a revelation to me when I was in art school. Why couldn't all movies be like this? So quirky, unique, and engaging. Watching standard Hollywood blockbusters or even other indie features after these films felt less than. They just didn't have 1/10 of the personality that Anderson had. And then this scene happened.
Don't let go.
Bruce Willis's Captain Sharp offers to assume the role of foster parent for Sam and then quite literally saves Sam and Susie after a lightning bolt strikes the bell tower they're all standing on. It's just too far for me. The artificiality of the stylization undercuts the emotion of the scene in favor of a cute image. The entire story, all 94 minutes of runtime, build up to this one moment, and it's essentially just a sight gag. When I first watched it, I felt like Anderson had pulled the rug out from under me. Yes, Anderson had always utilized stylized or symmetrical compositions, but the way the symmetrical shots and POV shots were executed in Moonrise Kingdom, it felt as though Anderson was aware that people knew he liked symmetrical compositions, and therefore he had to use them in the film. Moonrise Kingdom feels like the type of movie Wes Anderson made because he finally figured out that people like Wes Anderson movies, instead of him making a movie and organically arriving at the means of stylization. Up until this point, his films have a keenly deft authorial hand, and one that might or might not work for you. The earnestness, the damaged characters, the sets that are obviously sets, but that's kind of the point. It's not for everyone. But for me, in art school, it absolutely was. Which is why I was so turned off by Moonrise Kingdom. And I know I'm in the minority here. Over the next decade, Anderson would put out the Grand Budapest Hotel, Isle of Dogs, The French Dispatch, and Asteroid City. And that's to say nothing of the rapidly expanding world of short films he's been steadily producing as well. This, of course, climaxing in Anderson winning the Oscar for Best Live-Action Short Film for The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar. People still like Wes Anderson films, but it doesn't seem like he connects today culturally the way he did during his peak of Royal Tenenbaums, Life Aquatic, and Darjeeling Limited. Those three films have an energy, a narrative and visual perspective that can't really be easily summarized. His later films aren't bad, they're just repetitive. And yet, you know what? They make money. Ironically for me, The French Dispatch is my favorite of Anderson's most recent work. The film is an interconnected web of short stories, all told in varying filmmaking styles. The film was inspired by the magazine The New Yorker, but it's both thematically and literally about the way in which artists create their art. It's about style, and how the use of style can impact the viewer's perception of a story. People seem to either love the film or hate it, which in and of itself kind of proves my point. For better or worse, Wes Anderson is a brand now. He's a commodity, and people know what they're getting when they go to see a Wes Anderson movie. They're there for the style. And because he's never had a truly bold departure project from his previously established method of stylization, he's just not getting the same cultural feedback that he was some 20 years ago, which makes sense and is only logical. No one could expect an artist to be the king of the hill forever. It's in an artist's nature to experiment and push things, even if, from my perspective, the experimentation is pretty similar to what he's done before. But at the end of the day, he still has a loyal fan base. I personally might not like some or most of his later work due to the previously discussed self-awareness, but you have to respect the man for being interested in a set of artistic principles and going for it. And in a landscape filled with bombastic CGI punchfests that feel like they were made by committee, at least his films feel like someone with vision made them. And that's all we have for this episode. What do you think? Has Anderson become a parody of himself? Or is Asteroid City your favorite thus far? Let us know in the comments below. And as always, please like, comment, and subscribe for more videos just like this.